See you later, Devin. Have a good day, Devin.
Bye, Devin.
Oh, nice.
Hey, bye.
All right, hey everybody. We're live, episode 97 today with special guest Matt Cromwell. My name's Kyle. I do WordPress stuff in Jackson, Michigan, USA. Mark?
Hey, I'm Mark, and I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the moment. And how's everybody doing? Yesterday it was 51 degrees here. Today it's 32. So thanks, Mother Nature.
Oh my goodness, it's crazy. We had a
It's
barbecue
snowing.
scheduled this weekend, and it was snow everywhere.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just nuts.
Not right, not right.
No.
Matt knows all about that.
Yep. It's 70 today. It was 70 yesterday. I can't remember the last time it was under 70 degrees.
I don't know how you can cope with that.
It's rough. It's rough. It's a little bit Groundhog's Day-ish. But,
Yeah.
you know.
That's crazy. Well, we want to know all about it. And we're going to, because Mark and I both are headed in your direction in just a couple of weeks. We're going to be in San Diego for WordCamp. We're going to spend a lot of time there and have a darn good time.
That's
Excellent.
Very excited about that.
Yep.
So we've got a lot to talk about today. We're going to learn all about Matt Cromwell and the whole world as well. Wants to know about the real Matt, the real official #1 most important Matt in the WordPress community right here on the show today. So, Matt, why don't you give a brief introduction real quick? Who are you and what do you do?
I am Matt Cromwell. I am the head of support and outreach at WordImpress, and I help out with pretty much anything that you have issues with any of our plugins here. We sell premium plugins. As our leading plugin is Give. It's a donation plugin for WordPress, and I help out. I go to WordCamps, I speak, I volunteer, I moderate the AWP Facebook group, and I organize our local meetup. I blog as often as I can, and that's about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. We're going to have a lot of questions for you and dive into everything that you do and your business and all the things that you care about and maybe don't as much, but still, let's first dive into our quick picks of the week. This is part of the show where we all share something that we think is interesting that we want our audience to know about. My quick pick of the week this week is just going to be a couple podcasts that I really like. So I'm a big fan of podcasts I listen to like all the time, more than most people that I know. Like just about every second that I'm not either with my wife or staring at a computer screen focusing on some work, I have a podcast playing. So literally every time I even go to the bathroom or to get a drink of water, I'm turning on a podcast. So I'm taking them in all day long. And there's a number of them that I'm really a big fan of. Some that are WordPress related, like Post Status Draft. If you're not listening to that, Brian Krogsgaard and Joe Hoyle are doing a really great job putting out some top high quality content, which we should all know that is something that Brian Krogsgaard is very consistently good at. And a couple others that I think are really enjoyable. One, The Dollop. I don't know if anybody listens to The Dollop, but I'm totally a big fan. It's a hilarious and very informative American history podcast. There's a couple comedians who talk about a particular story each episode from American history, and then kind of just go over the ironies and amusement in the story. And it's really well done. And I find myself cracking up every time and having to tell my wife all about the story. So other than that, I like to listen to Beersmith for home brewers and Startups for the rest of us for really good business advice. And Mark, do you have a quick pick?
Sure, I'm going to go with a really easy route, especially since you already brought it up, which is WordCamp San Diego. Coming up in a couple of weeks, April 23rd and 24th. Kyle mentioned that he will be there. I will be there. We'll be sponsoring, and my esteemed partners who are 10 times smarter than I am are going to be leading a workshop there, which I'm pretty excited about. And really excited to get out to San Diego and enjoy some of that awful 70-degree weather that they have out there. It'll probably be like 20 degrees here when I go. So
It probably will be. It'll be great. Matt, do you have anything to share?
Put me on the spot. Oh man, to me, I was just I made Mark chase a squirrel right now, right before we got on with this new tool that I'm kind of new to called MiniCam that our marketing manager Bridget Willard put me onto. You can see Mark's phenomenal little lower third right there, and mine as well. these are all generated from Minicam. It's a cool way to basically feed up video, no matter what kind of podcast you're on, whether it's Hangouts or Skype or Blab or whatever, and it has some fun little effects you could do and things like that. I was playing around with this guy. This is, the important things in life, right there. So.
Right. So when you get on a big, popular podcast and you're in front of a huge audience, you want to make a good impression. You need these tools.
That's when I bring out the 3D winky face, smiley face. That's what happens.
Extremely useful. Thank you for sharing such a important tool, and for giving Mark something to do.
Because I needed stuff to do.
All right, Matt. Enough of the quick picks. Let's learn about you. Why don't we step back a little bit, back in time, jump in our time machine, our DeLorean, if you will, and go back long before you had a career or even a job. What is it that you thought you wanted to do professionally, and in the early days, what steps did you take to get a career going?
Well, that's going back in time. Basically, I always had my sights set on education in one form or another. When, like in junior high school, I was really into the piano a lot, actually. I got into music, and I ended up going to college and getting a music education degree. I thought that I was going to end up teaching music in one way or another at a band or something like that, in a high school band or a college band. But even before I ended my degree there, I really decided that music was something a lot more personal for me and not something that I wanted to really make money on. I kind of lost my passion for it when I was doing it for money or for performance and things like that. So I changed gears and started looking into education in other ways. So I actually, from there, I got a master's in theology. Was thinking I might teach at private schools, private Christian schools primarily. I actually really enjoyed that. I did get a chance to teach at a private school in Germany for 4 years, and taught all kinds of stuff that I didn't ever expect to be teaching. I got actually a lot of interest in history, and then went on and got a master's in history as well, and was seeking to do a PhD in history. At that point, I realized that my school bills had really gotten extremely high, and my kids were getting older by the minute, and that pursuing education endlessly was not going to pay the bills or give me a fulfilling family life. So I bailed and decided to do WordPress full-time. So that's the nutshell version.
That's amazing. I don't know that we've had a guest before who has 2 master's degrees.
Not many smart people do, actually. Better to avoid that, And if you're gonna get 2, you might as well actually do something with at least one of them. But
So theology and history, did you say?
Yeah, American religious history. I mean, it's just history, but that was my focus, was American religious history.
Fascinating. So obviously highly applicable to your day job today. How do you think this education contributed to where you're at now, and what impact does what you took away from that time and pursuing that degree have on your life now?
Yeah. Biggest thing is basically the way that I funded most of my education through all those years was doing web development on the side. So it's not as if I just quit and then ended up just jumping headfirst into something I didn't know anything about. I was actually doing WordPress. before I jumped into before I stopped with my education. So I was picking up all my skills during that time, if that makes sense. But I think a lot of the stuff that I took from that really is primarily being very rigorous in my work. I had to be very, very disciplined in the way that I approach my workday in order to get everything done that I had. I was, being a teacher's assistant or being a teacher in Germany and all that stuff. It required a lot of hours. It required a lot of study. It required a lot of organization. Those were skills that I still have to use a lot today. So, and I had to use a lot as a freelancer and everything. But
So Matt, I'm kind of curious to go back a little bit before that, because you said that while you were going through school and everything, you were doing WordPress websites and things like that. I'm kind of curious, were you always interested in technology or interested in programming, or did you just kind of fall into it, or how did that happen that you ended up like in the WordPress space at all?
yeah, actually, I think one thing that I mention often is the reason why the way I see my passion and interest in music going really, really well with web development and WordPress and all that is they're both left brain, right brain exercises. They both use the full capacity of your brain. They're both very, very technical and very, very creative at the same time. And that's I think why as soon as I started touching online technology at all, I realized that really quickly, and that's what made it interesting to me. I don't think at that time I recognized it in terms of that kind of way. I just recognized that I enjoyed that kind of work immediately, and somehow it resonated with other types of skills that I had. But how I fell into it all basically is that I was a young guy at church, and they have no money, but feel like all of a sudden, oh, it's 1995, we have to have a website. Let's make a website. Who knows how to make a website? Nobody. Oh, here's a young dude. He knows what he's doing. He'll make a website. And so they said, "Can you make a website?" And I was like, "No, but I'll try and see what happens." And I just dug around and learned some HTML, learned some CSS, and had my handy-dandy notepad and no syntax highlighting or anything, and made it happen. So.
You've come a long way then.
Well, it wasn't yesterday. It was a while
ago. You did mention 1995, so.
So, at what point, and did you begin moving into doing WordPress and web development and things like that nature full time? When did you make that switch and said, "This is my career now"?
Yeah, I did that in 2011, actually. I had been, always doing it on the side and mostly volunteer, and every once in a while somebody would demand that they pay me something for it, and that would be fun and whatever. But I started to have several friends who knew that I did it on the side, who were doing things related to online stuff. They were doing it for their business. And they just were like, "Hey, I have all this work here, and I could use your help, and why don't we pay you?" And I was like, "Well, all right." And so I just took a couple side jobs, and then in 2011, I was like, I want to be my own boss. And I think I can do it because I have enough work right at the moment to justify it, and I think I could generate enough to keep it going. And so, I just did it, basically. I just quit, 30-day notice, and never looked back.
That's amazing. That must have been pretty brave, and it was probably a difficult decision to make at the time, I'm sure.
Yes and no. I was ready to go. I was ready to, I think anybody who does freelance work or is a sole proprietor of anything, they, they're like those guys in the Matrix. They resist power. They resist being controlled by anything. Like everybody has that nature of like, I'm just better off if I'm my own boss. So and there's enough of that in me that I love teams. I love collaborating and all that. But it was time for me to outgrow my old circumstances.
You didn't want to answer to the man.
Yeah. I wanted to, and I didn't want to necessarily be the man. I just wanted to
Right.
be not accountable to anyone except me and my own throne.
So what happened next? Where did it go? How did things work out?
Yeah, so at that point, I was working a lot with a friend of mine named Adam McLean. He's here in San Diego. He does great work for churches mostly. He leads a youth ministry program, a national program. It's a cool organization, and he on the side was like the kind of work he was doing also required website work. And he knew WordPress and he could do it, but he didn't want to dedicate his time to it, so he had me do that, and that was great. That helped out a lot, and that was my primary referral was from Adam, and then a couple other folks actually, and then I started getting a lot of word of mouth and started getting overly busy, but the kind of freelance busy where it's feast or famine, like too much income one month and almost can't pay the bills the next, And so I was looking for something steady and reliable, and I ended up running into Adam Warner through our Advanced WordPress Facebook group, and he was looking for somebody to help him with support at Foo Plugins. And Foo Plugins at that time didn't exist, but it was going to be existing, and he knew that at launch he wanted to make sure that he had somebody who was dedicated to support. So that was my first real product experience, was being on the inside track of seeing Foo Plugins get launched. And he flew me out to Miami where we did the Foo Plugins launch release at WordCamp Miami in 2013, I think it was. 2014? 2014. No, 2013. 2013. And
it all
yeah
overlaps. That's all. Yeah.
It's like my kids' names and dates. Like,
Well, you might want to remember those.
I try, but number one, number two, like,
Yeah.
No, but yeah. So then I started with Adam. So I was doing freelance and then support work at Foo Plugins, and then you want me to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so I did that until roughly fall of 2014 is when I basically, at that time, I basically was feeling like I was spread thin because I had started building my own plugins as well at that time. I was experimenting with building themes, and I had these referrals from Adam that were keeping me very busy. I had my own clients that I had got through word of mouth or whatever. I had two other referrals that were keeping me busy and Foo Plugins work. And I just felt spread really, really thin. And I was like, man, I would really love to be able to just do one thing so that I could, do it and know when my workday was over and not wonder when my workday is over, because I was working from home and it just felt like I was working all the time. And I just, in the middle of things, I had a random client who needed a WooCommerce job, and I knew I couldn't execute it. Not the whole thing. I could execute most of it, most of the front end work, but there were some custom elements to it that I wasn't going to be able to code. And I reached out to the only guy I knew who did WooCommerce stuff, and that was Devin Walker, who's leader of one of our meetups here, and a guy I knew, but I'd never worked with him before in anything. And I was like, hey, Devin, I got a job. It's WooCommerce. I know you do that. And he said, sure, why don't you come on over to our office and we'll talk about it. And I was like, all right. So next day I go over there and I meet his new business partner, Jason, and we sit down, and they start talking to me about a job. And by the end of it, I'm like, well, we didn't even talk about the client. And he's like, yeah, I can't do that, but I would really love for you to take this job.
So he lured you there under false pretense, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And you felt comfortable with that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, because the truth was I really didn't want to deal with that site anyway.
Wow, so it worked out. Doesn't it make you suspicious now whenever he says, sure, I can help you?
Yeah, or when he invites you somewhere, do you always wonder if there's like some ulterior motive back there?
So far it's been all right. So far I pretty much can see pretty much everything he does anyway, so there's enough transparency that usually I'm probably the only one who could get away with stuff.
That's too funny.
So going back to jobs that you've done and whatnot, did you have any, like, whether it was during your freelance days or anything, any that were like these huge nightmares that turned into like one great big nothing but lesson learned?
Well, in looking back, like I can't think of one. I probably, if I thought about it a little bit longer, I probably could think of like specific instances. But the thing that always jumps out at me every time I think back to it is I don't know. I don't think that being a WordPress developer, freelancer is meant to be for anyone. Like at the end of the day, I think you do that in order to partner up eventually. Like you do that in order to get your foot in the door and start doing things and learning things, and as you grow, you basically necessarily are going to have to partner up because there's just too many very different types of roles that you have to fulfill to do it really well. So, for example, like I was really terrible at balancing my books. Like I basically feared it more than the dentist. Like I just did not want to touch it. So I was happy to go in, and when I got an invoice paid, I was happy to be like paid, and then log out and not look at the rest of whatever I had to look at. And that's just the way I am. So you don't want me balancing anybody's books.
I was just going to offer you a job, but never mind.
I can mark the pay button all day long. You can take that. I love that.
You thought we wanted to interview on this podcast,
yeah, but
really,
we'll talk about you, but really, it's this other thing. That's the biggest thing. Is it's just too hard to do so many, to be the marketer, to be the sales guy, to be the front end developer, the back end developer, the plugin developer, the debugger, the security expert, the SEO expert, the account keeper, the bookkeeper. Like it's just too difficult to do all of those things well, and so the individual freelance life is really not meant to be for the long run, in my opinion. So.
That's a really interesting opinion, and I can see why you'd feel that way. That it's a lot to manage, you know, as a freelancer, as opposed to an agency. You're fundamentally quite similar. It's just a single person having to do all of those things, but everything that an agency has to do, a freelancer has to do as well, only on a smaller scale, and that's a lot to carry.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just like as soon as I came on, the fact that I knew that I didn't have to cut the checks was an immense relief. You know, it frees me up to do the things that I am hired to do, that is my job. I get to do them and focus on them, and I do them so much better because I don't have to worry about all the other crap that's going on. So, yeah, and honestly, like every single freelancer that I know that I worked with who does a really good job, they eventually partner up in one way or another. Either they partner up with somebody who has compatible skills or, you know, parallel skills, or they end up hiring people to work underneath them in one way or another, like, or they outsource. I mean, they get contractors in a lot of different forms to do things that they're just not as skilled at. But the one person shop that just is the end all be all for everything, I just never see that as being either lucrative or wise or healthy. It just it can only last for a short amount of time.
Sure, I can see that. And I think that you could come up with countless examples out there of people that we all know that illustrate this. That it's being your time as a freelancer is like your training time or proving ground or something.
Yeah.
So tell us more about what were they doing at that time, Devin and your other partner's name.
Jason. Yep.
Yeah, what were they doing at the time that they offered you the job?
Yeah, so Jason and Devin had just partnered up the summer before that, so it was summer of 2014. Jason is a basically marketing and sales finance guy, and he really excels at doing work for franchise businesses, marketing work and pay-per-click and all kinds of stuff. And he was looking for a really talented web developer, and he had hired Devin through a friend of a friend to do a small site that he just needed done quickly, and Devin handled it very, very professionally. And so Jason was like, this guy's great, we should just try to see if he wants to work together. So they partnered up in terms of being two kind of like complementary roles that benefited each other a lot, and they wanted to maintain their separate businesses to benefit each other. So Jason's business is called Thought House, and of course Devin is WordImpress, where we work now. And Thought House and WordImpress have a symbiotic relationship, basically. We benefit each other a lot. So.
Fascinating. And so you're with WordImpress now permanently, and what's different about the business now from when you started? Are you still working on similar projects, or has there been any big changes?
There's basically, I mean, it's very, very different, just in terms of potential, momentum, and even the face of what we're doing. In this short amount of time, we've more than six-fold increased our sales since I came on board, and we've hired on Bridget Willard as our marketing manager, full-time marketing manager. I have two part-time support folks that work underneath me now, and I just hired a third today, actually. And he's starting part-time, but he's on a on-ramp to be full-time. We're hoping by June, actually. So we'll have another full-time support person working here by June. But the biggest single thing that made the difference for all of that is basically Give. Give is the single thing that basically enabled all of those things to happen in one way or another.
Because Give is awesome.
So I'd love to talk about Give real quick. Let's before we do, tell us a little bit about it. What is Give for those who don't know and have never heard of it?
Yeah. So Give is a donation plugin for WordPress, and we built it to solve a problem. Devin and I had both been building sites for nonprofits while we were freelancing individually, and every time a nonprofit wanted to do online donations, we cringed. It was like, of course you want to do online donations. It's the right thing to do, and it's terrible to do that in WordPress. So, I mean, if you go to GiveWP.com, you go to our homepage. There's a video right on the homepage, and it really explains this kind of origin story for us. That basically, that at the time, there really was only taking something like WooCommerce or EDD and arm wrestling it to pretend like it's doing something with donations. Or you could take Gravity Forms and then you just have a form. So with the e-commerce stuff, it's basically the problem is that you're making a product thing that has a checkout system act like it's a donation form, and that it takes a lot of customization to make it work really well for a professional nonprofit organization, and it always just feels wrong to go through a checkout when you're doing a donation. Or with Gravity Forms now, at the time, they didn't really But now they do have some reporting on their forms, but it's pretty limited, and it's not very designed specifically for nonprofit usage. So the Gravity Forms route, or whatever type of form you might want to use, gives you a form, but it doesn't really give you good data, and it doesn't give you a way to report on that data or export that data very well or usefully for nonprofit purposes. So between those two things, we're like the right solution is somewhere in there, a really easy to configure form generator that's going to give you no checkout process and some robust reporting on the back end. And so we were like, after we partnered up, basically, we were like, let's solve a really big problem in WordPress, and we were like, donations. That would be excellent to really solve that problem. And so we built Give. It took about 6 months of basically 10-hour-a-day development, and we released it in April of 2015, April of last year, and we're now over 9,000 active installs and doing great. So we're happy.
It's really remarkable. I'm curious about one thing. You guys have had a number of things going on, and you've been working on different projects since before you started Give. And if we were to look at that timeline of the stages that you went through, making this plugin, kind of researching the idea, maybe early development, maybe releasing it initially, and then its growth that followed. At what stage is what I'm curious? Did you guys say, whoa, we've really got something here? We're pretty much diverting most of our focus on this. Give is our thing now. Because it seems like Give is really the core focus of your organization at this time. So at what stage did you really say, well, let's put everything on Give?
Well, that's basically what we're going through right now, because Give has been doing really well, and we have put a lot of our efforts behind it over the last, since launch, basically. But for most of last year, it still basically only was almost, but less than 50% of our revenue of all of our plugins. Our WordImpress side has always done relatively well. It hasn't grown exponentially the way Give has, but it does well. Quick Checkout is our #1 bestseller, and it does really well. Ironically, Devin built Quick Checkout basically to help do donations on WooCommerce, basically, so you could avoid the checkout. So it was for a nonprofit client that he built that. But now, already, just in 2016, Give is now closer to 70% of our revenue. So, of course, we have to take that very seriously, and we have been, and we're slowly transitioning more and more to try to focus more and more on Give. We're not planning to do anything with what we got with the WordImpress stuff. It's just that the more resources that we add to our team right now, they're primarily going to be focused on Give.
So Matt, when you came up with the whole idea for Give, you came up with the pricing model and everything. Was there a lot of brain damage that went into how you were going to price the plugin, if you were going to go with, like you went with the freemium model kind of thing, or was it all pretty cut and dry and you knew exactly how you were going to price it from day one?
Well, this is like going back to that issue of partnering up and wanting to have people with better skills and different skills do the thing that they're made for. Having Jason on the team has been really invaluable because of basically his business and finance acumen, and he was a really strong voice in how we priced everything for good reason, because we basically introduced him to WordPress and the whole idea of the freemium business model. When he first looked at it, he thought it was absolute insanity. He just did not understand how you can give away code for free and expect to make money off of that. And so we just started really trying to dig into it really in detail with him so that he understood it. And once he understood, he started putting some numbers together. and the biggest thing was basically he was like, well, let's try to figure out what the ratio of downloads to purchases is, basically. So if the plugin is downloaded a certain amount of times, how many sales is that going to result in? And if that's our formula, more or less, then and we want to expect this many sales every month in order to meet our budgets and whatnot, then we got to price it at this or that. That was, we did talk a lot about that in the early days. There was also just a sense of like this plugin is basically just like EDD and just like WooCommerce in the sense that it's a robust free plugin that's fully functional out of the box with premium add-ons, and EDD has a long history of pricing that we can look at, and WooCommerce has their own pricing, and we fit right in between there. Basically, most of our add-ons are priced right a little bit more than EDD's, a little bit less than WooCommerce's. So there's also that method, kind of like this. Yeah. But all of that is what we took into account in the early days. Now we're kind of tightening the screws and thinking a little bit more strategically in general. But all of it is with the aim of making them as affordable as they can be, while also as sustainable for our business, so that we can be here in the next 5 years, so your nonprofit doesn't have to switch plugins in 5 years.
So then, when you just started, all you did was you just released the plugin. That was all you had. I remember you didn't have really a lot of. I don't think you had any premiums right off the bat. Did you? Did you have any right out the door? Yeah, we did. We made sure that we had all of our not all, but we had, I think, 4 premium gateways right away. Oh, did you? Okay. I don't know why I had remembered that differently. So was there a lot of like edge of your seat moments, like when you launched all that, kind of like waiting to see, if the numbers were to bear out what you had kind of predicted, and did they, or did they exceed them, or how did that go? Yeah, I mean, we we purposely wanted to make sure that we could make money from Give immediately. That was important to us. We didn't make money from Give immediately, and that's totally expected. It's a brand new platform, and nonprofits are notoriously not quick to spend money. Right. Yeah. So they're going to kick the tires for a while, and so of course we were kind of like, oh, maybe people are going to buy right away. They're not buying right away. That's okay. So I guess they're trying to figure things out. The thing that was encouraging for us while we were not making any money, like $0 on Give, right out of the gate, was basically all of the community affirmation that we got. So we were like, we aren't making sales yet, but everyone is very positive about this project. Everyone seems to really have already embraced it. We got a lot of really positive write-ups and reviews from other sources right away, and it just seemed like everything was a go, and so that kind of helped calm our nerves. And then once sales did start coming in, start trickling in, they trickled, and then they increased and they increased and they increased, and so we saw a steady increase of sales, and that kind of affirmed our whole idea that, yeah, people were kicking the tires, trying to get a good grip of what it does and what it is, and what they need and what they don't need, and what we have and what we don't have, and all that kind of thing. And then they feel good enough about it that they pulled the trigger, and that started to show about 6 to 8 weeks in. We really started to see the pickup. So. Well, and the one thing that I'll say, just from my personal experience in interaction with you and Devin, is that I think one of the reasons for his success, and I would say this to anybody who wants to do something, is that your heart is behind the purpose of what it does. So you guys are emotionally attached to its purpose. It's not just something you're doing to make money. It's because you really strongly believe in what you guys are producing and the good that it's doing out there. And I think that that's why the community backed you up so much too, because they knew that it was not just just a moneymaker idea for you guys, and of course everybody's thrilled to see that it's become the success that it has. So no
Yeah.
real question there, just a comment.
No, absolutely. I appreciate that because it's absolutely true. I mean, it makes us feel good to come into our work every day and know that this is what we get to work on. Like I'm the last person in the office who would be happy to talk about sales, like money and numbers and all that stuff. It makes me it's not my forte. It's not something I enjoy really. But the way that I do get my head around it is that this means I get to work on Give More. This means I get to do more with it. This means I get to enjoy it more. It means that this is sustainable. This is going to keep us going, and I think it's great.
From an outside perspective, I would agree completely with what Marc said, and also it's just taking a look at you guys. It looks as though you really thought this out, and you're really observant, and didn't kind of like develop this in an island, but were deliberate with your development of the Give product, and learned from what was working and not working, and everything else that was going on in the industry, all the other projects that you mentioned. And if I didn't know better, I would be looking and saying, these guys took stock of their surroundings, looked at what was needed, learned about effective models, and executed really well. And it seems like you guys have had not a very bumpy road since, but a very exciting trajectory that's looking even better.
I appreciate that. I mean, all those things that you mentioned are necessary for product development. So yeah, that's what we tried to do for sure. You can't just throw a plugin on the wall and hope it sticks. It definitely takes a lot of research and knowledge into the industry, and to know exactly where you fit and where you don't fit, exactly what you do well and what you don't do well, and what it's for and what it's not for. And then once you have all those things clearly defined, you hit it as hard as you can every single day. You hit that button as hard as you can every single day. And that's what we're trying to do.
You've been working with nonprofits for a long time now.
Yeah.
In one way or another, even during your freelance career on the side, and your early clients, as you described, and now in your partnership with Devin and the Give product is a big part of what you do. Tell us a little bit about how you feel about the good and the bad, the fun and the problems, and the pros and cons of working with nonprofits.
I think the pros and the cons. I think any pros and cons that I might say, or what I might have in general, are probably what nonprofits would say about themselves, basically. For example, like every nonprofit would like to be able to have more staff available that has knowledge of how to build a website. I mean, they would love to have an internal developer who could just spin up new pages for them quickly and easily, but because they don't, they have a secretary, for example, or they have a volunteer who's helping them with their website. And what that means for us is that's the person that we end up supporting with our plugin. Somebody who often doesn't have a whole lot of knowledge of WordPress, who doesn't fully understand exactly how plugins interact with themes and all that kind of thing. And that's not a problem. It's just it does make support a lot more challenging, a lot more hands-on than it does with other plugins that I've dealt with in the past. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfectly.
Yeah.
Another thing, a similar question. You've adopted the add-on model for the Give product. For your monetization, the core product is free, the Give plugin, which can do a lot for nonprofits out of the box. But for that extra functionality, those other things that they need, to really get the exact functionality they're looking for, they're going to need to purchase some add-ons at a premium price. Tell us what your experience has been with that particular model, which a lot of new product developers are looking at and considering. What are some of the pros and cons, the good and the bad of that model?
Yeah. Especially for nonprofits, the real big good of the model is that nonprofits have a solid, reliable donation platform for free. That's actually in our specific. Sorry, there's downtown San Diego acting up again. That's actually the real big benefit for our specific circumstance that I see. Like, I love the fact that a nonprofit can spin up Give, and if they just want to use PayPal Standard, in 10 minutes they have a donation form on their website that can actually generate real income for them. We've seen nonprofits or even individuals who are using just the PayPal Standard, no premium add-ons at all, who can raise $50,000 in a short amount of time, as long as they have the right story behind their cause, basically. So for me, the add-on model makes a ton of sense for Give because it gives them a really strong, well-supported, well-documented, stable, reliable donation platform totally for free. That's number one. But for us, in terms of actual monetization, the great thing about the add-on model is being able to make sure that that strong, reliable, stable, core, free product can remain relatively lean. The add-on model basically enables you to keep your free product and keep your core product relatively lean, and that's really important. The more and more that free product gets bloated or starts to lose its focus or whatnot with additional random features and whatnot, the more watered down the product becomes, less effective it is. So that's another reason why I really like the add-on model is it allows the free product to be powerful and lean. And then for the nonprofits, they basically get to choose. They get to choose what variation of Give that they want, basically. They have the core free product, and then they can just buy PDF receipts, for example. You keep doing PayPal Standard, and your folks are going to get redirected over to PayPal, but they'll get PDF receipts with it, or even recurring donations. Everybody wants recurring donations. You don't have to have a premium gateway in order to have recurring donations. You can use PayPal Standard and buy recurring donations, and you're set. Or you want all the above. You're like, I need MailChimp, I need PDF receipts, I need recurring donations, I need a premium gateway. Like, have it all. It's all there, and it'll all cooperate together. So that to me is also a major benefit of the add-on model as well. The pitfall is really the thing that's always a challenge with the add-on model is encouraging your users to continue to renew their licenses because it really does require renewals in order to really be sustainable in the long run. Renewals are super important. More and more plugin authors are really facing that reality dead on and trying to be more and more creative about how they can encourage renewals to happen, whether it's auto subscriptions into renewals or just hounding their customers to death with emails or admin notices and whatnot. But renewals is a real challenge for all plugin developers. So, and then I think the last real I don't know if it's a pitfall, but it's a challenge, is basically making sure that all of your add-ons really do play well together. As our marketplace of add-ons grows, it will get more and more challenging to make sure that they all can be activated on one install and not blow things up or not ruin each other or all that kind of stuff.
Cool. Thanks for that answer, Matt.
Yeah.
Let's see. What events do you have in your calendar for 2016? Where are people going to bump into in person?
Mm-hmm. Well, WordCamp San Diego for sure. I'm hoping the whole world of WordPress shows up in San Diego in just a few weeks. I love WordCamp San Diego. It's definitely my favorite, not just because it's here. I just really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, and looking forward to that a lot. And then honestly, I'm not going to be doing a whole lot more. I am actually expecting our fourth child is going to be coming at the end of May, actually. And so that's going to put me on hiatus for a little while. So I won't be doing any traveling after the new baby comes. And then I'll be back in action probably around the fall, which will most likely also be relatively local. I'll be at WordCamp Orange County and WordCamp Los Angeles. We definitely are planning to be at US, which is in December. And we're crossing our fingers. We're planning to hopefully sponsor WordCamp US if possible. So we're looking into that right now. Yeah, looking into it. We'll see what happens.
That's cool.
Yeah, but those are the big ones. Or my meetup. Anybody can come to my meetup whenever they want.
That's true. When do you meet?
We're every second Thursday of the month here in San Diego. We just have a brand new location actually, which is a pretty cool co-working space. Yeah.
Awesome. So, who do you recommend we have on the show as a guest in the future?
Ooh, I got lots of recommendations. A guy I think more and more folks should be learning from and getting to know is Mason James from Valet. I think he does some really creative work. In a similar vein, Ben Fox is a great guy. Who he's the guy behind his agency is called FlowPress, and he is the creator lead for Sidekick. I don't know if you've seen Sidekick. It's a great one. Those two are great guys to learn from for sure. Yeah, Nathan Porter. Another really great guy to learn from. Nathan Porter is head of an agency called WannaPixel, and they're also the creators of a CRM plugin for WordPress called Uku People. And Nathan is a great guy. I really like Nathan a lot, and he has some really great insights. Also, in terms of nonprofits, he knows his stuff. He's really, really knowledgeable and has tons of experience. So,
what kind of things do you do for fun? Do you still play music?
I do. Like I mentioned, I do it mostly just for me. I'm thinking about like publishing some stuff on my blog with some music that I do. I do really enjoy arranging. I arrange a lot of existing songs, other folks' songs, into more of like a mellow, gospel-y type feel, and I've always thought about publishing those on my blog, but I don't know. I do enjoy music. I also brew beer. I love to brew. I'm a home brewer. Don't have anything going right now. Pippin is an amazing home brewer, and I always ask him, and I hate it when I ask him because he's got, literally the last time I talked to him, he had, I think, 23 brews sitting there waiting to be either bottled or opened, or like, it was ridiculous. And I was like, I got Jack nothing right now. But I do enjoy it. I just don't do it as often as I'd like. So.
That's great. Yeah, Pippin's a machine. But brewing is a big deal up here too, and our local WordPress community, a lot of us brew. And so what are some of your favorites that you've created?
San Diego, love it. This guy on the motorcycle every day, unbelievable. Was that really loud on your end?
Not too bad.
Okay, not too bad. All right. So anyway, I had a great Hefeweizen that I did about a year ago with some orange peel and anise in it. It was really good. I have a guy who I brew with all the time, and he's just not really a Hefeweizen fan, so it wasn't his favorite, but it was one of my favorites. We also did this monk-style ale. We called it a Dusseldorf ale. It's a really dark one, really dark and cloudy, and it was really well balanced. It was a good one. Yeah.
Are you gonna have anything to? You probably won't have anything to share when we're there, will you?
No, not San Diego. It takes too long.
Okay.
Right now, I'm thinking I just want to have like maybe 2 or 3 brews available at my birthday. My birthday's in October, and I'm like, maybe I'll brew enough that I have something to actually share at my birthday. So if you could think of another excuse to come to San Diego in October, then you're all set.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great. It's a pretty fun and rewarding hobby. I enjoy myself. So, Matt, we're just about down to the wire here, and this hour's kind of flown by. We got to talk about some fun stuff, and I really appreciated your insight on a lot of things. Really, really good answers, and it really sounds like you guys are doing some cool stuff. Give is, on the list of companies I know in the WordPress community that is going somewhere. You guys are doing some cool stuff. It seems like you have a great plan, a great product, a ton of community support, a ton of goodwill, and you're just doing everything right. So I commend you and wish you guys the best. And thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I appreciate being here.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
I'm fighting a cough, so.
We'll forgive Mark.
I got him all choked up. It was pretty emotional.
Yeah. Mark gets choked up pretty easily, but you're right. I'm pretty moved myself, and so moved that I think we just got to wrap this up.
Sounds good.
So, Matt, where can people find you online, and is there anything that you want to push or pitch or encourage people to take action on before we go?
Check out Advanced WordPress Facebook group. That's a good place to learn stuff. Check me out on mattcromwell.com. I blog there regularly. WordImpress.com, GiveWP.com. You can follow me on Twitter at LearnWithMattC. That's all I got.
Thanks a lot, Matt. We really appreciate you being on the show. Episode 97 in the books. Next week we have Beth Soderberg on the show with us. And that's a wrap, folks. So thank you once again, Matt, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.